Holy cow. All right, there we are. Streamlabs just had a minor freak out.
A meltdown?
Not if I wouldn't classify it as a meltdown. I would classify it more as like a freak out moment.
Okay. Just a mild panic attack.
It's like, are you sure? Yes. Yes, I'm sure. Let me do what I want to do.
I'm sure of those things. Hello.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm super. Thanks for asking. I'm super. Thanks for asking. Demonetized immediately.
Hello, and welcome to the Shifting Lanes Garage podcast. My name's Chad. With me, as always, is the one, the only, the Mr. Gregson Mate. And today we have a few good topics for you. We're looking forward to chatting with, well, chat.
With and at you.
With at you, and it may or may not be
Around you?
I was going to say mildly unhinged, but yeah, we'll go with that. That sounds...
Hey, unhinged is good as long as it doesn't get us demonetized.
I like to live on the edge.
What is up, everyone? Thank you for joining. Excited to chat with you for the second week in a row for what seems like forever, which is great. So we did a couple of blind rankings last week. I think we're going to take a break from that this week. We're going to do more of that next week, those are always really fun. But there's a couple of topics out there right now that are some hot button issues in the auto industry.
And this is the best place to learn about those topics and really get the only opinions that matter, if I'm being completely and totally and truthfully honest. Haha.
Well,
Twice.
truthfully honest, but also all of those things and biased.
There is no... I'll tell you what. I will freely warn chat that there is a mildly... Greg found a news topic that has inspired a rant in yours truly.
A rant of biblical proportions, apparently. To which I know nothing about.
No, I
literally sent Chad the article, and he was like, "You set it up. I have a rant," and I'm like, "Cool, let's do it."
Yes, of which there is no bias, none whatsoever. It is bias free, and but yeah, no, it should be a good show today. I'm looking forward to it. I'm always looking forward to talk cars. Sorry, I'm on two PCs tonight, so I'm trying to get other stuff on this other. It makes sense when I'm looking at this monitor. It looks like I'm intently watching Greg as he speaks, but I'm really just, checking Twitter for
Right.
Warzone meta builds. But no, it's like I said, it's gonna be oh, for God's sake. God damn it.
Yes.
No, I hate this fucking sync shit with Facebook Messenger now. You have to put in a pin,
Oh.
and I always forget mine.
Well, anyway, while Chad figures that out, hello, Steve, in chat. Thank you for joining, as always.
As opposed to
Appreciate
Steve
you
behind
joining.
your camera.
As opposed to Steve elsewhere, which is, nowhere. He's just on Facebook. And we met him, which is cool. Hi, Steve. And if she's watching, hi, Mrs. Steve, which I now know is Abigail.
Steve, you have your keys outside of your vehicle, correct?
Literally never going to live that down.
Nope.
Literally
Not
never.
at least until someone else does something of equal or greater stupidity.
Yeah, accurate. It wasn't even like that stupid, to be quite honest with you. I've locked my keys in the car dozens of times when I was younger. Literally the same thing. Fob in there. Didn't realize all doors were locked. Closed door. And like the older fobs, they don't have that technology where it like knows it's in the car. It's just like literally just an unlock button, a lock and unlock button. The end. Steve, excellent emoji, sir. Um, but yeah, we rib because we love.
I've said,
Um,
the moment I stop busting chops is the moment you should start worrying, or not
yeah,
worrying, depending on
exactly.
perspective. But
Touche, touche.
exactly. So, Greg, what's
Yes.
new with you?
Oh, nothing really. Um, I guess the biggest thing I got to worry about soon is getting winter tires on this thing and actually getting my wheels off of this car, which is going to be fun
Well,
because
knowing you, it's a 3 day
um,
endeavor.
no, well, well,
See,
this
Steve,
one
I am
might
an
be.
equal opportunity chop buster of chops.
Well, with this one's going to be interesting because I got these wheels powder coated, and when we got new tires this year for it, so these are new summers, I put them on. Well, I didn't put them on. My buddy Sean at Volvo Prestige Volvo East Hanover did it, which is really cool. And he actually realized that the center bore was so caked on with powder coat that he actually had to Dremel a lot of it off and get back down to the original surface, which he still didn't get back down to. The problem with that is now I believe they're heat fused to the hubs. So I need to bring this thing to Blue Sky and see if Jeff and Jesse can sort of bead blast the freaking things off of the hubs or do something with them. Because I was literally out here with it up on jack stands a couple of weeks ago with a rubber mallet, my feet and my hands basically just hitting the damn thing from all sides, and it didn't budge. And that's two different wheels. So yeah, it's gonna be that's gonna be a fun thing. You're muted.
Probably for the
I
best. That was
also
what I just said was horribly inappropriate. Um,
it's fine.
Joke's on you.
That's that's what makes it great.
Just mule kick the
I
bastards.
also yeah, true. I do also have to look into getting my winter wheels, well, one of them repaired because I nailed a curb last
You
year.
are a
With
terrible driver.
I'm an excellent
You have
driver.
all-wheel drive, like maybe 400 horsepower, and you've hit more things than I did with 705 two-wheel drive horsepower in a Mustang.
Yes, yes.
You
However,
are
you do not
thankfully
have
for
two.
bucking that internet trend because I'm responsible in not hitting stuff, and Volvo, which is like arguably the most mature brand, and you're over here freaking smoking curbs like it's, you know, like you're
In my
Mario hunting
defense,
mushrooms.
in my defense, you do not have two little human distractions in the back seat of your car, which is exactly the reason why I nailed the curb. So, not trying to blame the kids, but it was 100% their
And
fault.
that brings us to tonight's
Uh,
sponsor, Trojan.
yes, Trojan and not pins to poke holes in them. Um, yeah, we'll see what happens, but it's one wheel, and basically one of the things it still holds air, and it's totally fine. But I know that the wheel is bent a little bit, so I got to get it like rerounded and repaired a bit. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it on my end. How about you, sir? What is up with the old Stangaroony?
Well, actually, nothing and a lot at the same time. I had a highly, as a lot of you guys saw, if you follow me on Instagram or I guess Facebook, we made our maiden trip to the dyno. I had some, let's just say some concerns. So I'll explain this more in the video that I'm currently making for it. But I, during shift show, during the cruise, threw a check engine light, and I wasn't really sure what it was. Took my car to Ford to get an oil change, and they wanted to charge me $160 to run their diagnostic, which they can, get fucked. I ain't paying that for you to plug a computer in. I don't care. Like, they were like, well, it's not just a regular OBD2. I know what it is. Like, have you ever heard of Vita? And they're like, huh? I go, that's Volvo's diagnostic software. It's literally a thing that plugs into a laptop that plugs into your car. I get it. And they're like, I go, I'm not paying 160 for it. So I'm like, I'm going straight to Blue Sky after this. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So they do the oil change. Mysteriously, my check engine light goes away. Like, you cocksuckers just cleared the code.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, as long as this wasn't like a hard reset or something, there should be legacy codes in the computer. I should be able to pull them. Fast forward, get to Blue Sky, pull the codes, and it's a cam angle sensor code for circuit 1 and circuit 2. We're not sure if that's both cams on the driver's side, or both intake cams, or both exhaust cams, or the cams on the passenger side. But we're like, that's not great. And so we do some digging. My car was making a ticking noise, which I'll get to in a moment. So I thought maybe it was the dreaded coyote tick, which is issues in the valve train. Fast forward, turns out with coyotes, you have to be, and really this goes for any oil pressure actuated variable valve control. But as it turns out, the oil change light coming on, a day after shift show or the day of shift show, I can't remember exactly, was someone had just reset it and not actually changed the oil. Which means that someone before handing it into the dealer, because the dealer didn't obviously put on the requisite number of miles to just trip that message, right? But the funny thing...
So they didn't change the oil.
So someone had never changed the oil, so I had gone very long without an oil change in it.
Jesus.
And what that ends up doing, and this is the thing within coyotes, is that if it's oil starvation or old oil or something to that effect, is that actuation won't work properly. And it'll stick the cam in the more conservative of the two settings. No, Doug, they clearly didn't, because I wasn't able to check the levels or anything before they did the oil change, which is something you obviously should do. I didn't. Thankfully, we caught it in time. But the thing is that the cam phasers, the things responsible for advancing or retarding the cam, you can kill those, among other things, but you lose variable valve if you don't get the oil change done. So we cleared those codes. They haven't come back. We put it on the dyno. We data logged everything. The cams were acting as they should. Everything was acting as they should. Except for this stupid tick that I had. Wasn't coming from the valve train. Wasn't coming from the underside or whatever. We could not, for the life of us, figure out what it was. We got the car up in the air. We started looking at it. Turns out my driver's side catalytic converter had been replaced with, I'm guessing, a bad catalytic converter, because I have a sulfur smoke coming out of the back of my car, out of that specific tailpipe too.
Telltale bad cat smell.
And we did some listening, and it turns out there's either a pinhole leak or something in the cat or something, but the ticking noise, it also has a pulse that it's sending through the wire for the OBD2 sensor that you can't feel on the other side OBD2 sensor. So I have a bad cat on the driver's side of the Mustang, which I couldn't begin to give a fuck about. Because, which brings me to the next reason when we were up at Blue Sky doing the dyno things, is we came up with a plan for the build on the new Mustang, and it is not a 1-to-1 swap of parts.
It's an LS swap.
Yeah, no, never, under no circumstance. It's
Doug's favorite thing ever.
No, I mean, we're taking, we're going to take the stop the hop, all the suspension goodies, the shifter, a lot of that stuff. But I'm not going to go any further than this, but we are going to be, we're not going to be using the centrifugal supercharger that's on it, on the old car. But in my opinion, the build is going to be even more epic for reasons that will become clear as soon as I start getting parts coming in. As soon as parts start coming in, it starts to become real, so to speak. I will unveil to the world the plan for this car. It's going to be epic. I don't know of very many street Mustangs that have this, that are going to be performing in this particular fashion and stuff. So it's a rare build. It's going to be an epic build. And in theory, we will be making more power than a Jaguar F-Type R, should Greg potentially maybe buy one down the road.
Maybe over the winter. That would be wonderful.
So it fits with that Jaguar F-Type R pretty damn well.
Yeah.
Which means, it would mean for fun content for us. As long as Greg's already cheating with an automatic, as long as he doesn't go full cheater and get all-wheel drive, at which point I'm going to ask that he, frankly, turn over his man card. Patrick, welcome. Thank you for tuning in.
What's up, Patrick? Thanks for joining, man.
Doug goes, I want to see a flathead swap, if we're being honest. No, we're not swapping the motor, but we're going to be taking advantage of what Coyotes do best. One of the things the Coyotes do best. It's like I said, it's going to be pretty interesting. This week at some point Blue Sky should start to take off or take the old car apart. Once that is, we can start selling some stuff off of that. Once I get some money from that, then I can order parts. Yeah. Because I do need new parts, just the direction we're going. And once the
different parts.
Yeah, once the parts start coming in, there will be a video. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a live unboxing for you guys. Perhaps if I can, pry Greg away from his loving family.
You can drop the loving part. It's just a family.
Gregson got a college.
None of them particularly like me. It's fine. I've come to terms with it.
Keith goes, talking about Coyotes again. No way Chad wants to talk about those. Well, I own one. So,
and then once I get a V8 of some kind, it's just going to be, Coyotes this. Oh, LS and or AJ and or other V8 insert here. And it's just going to be those two engines ad nauseum forever.
Well, no, the conversation's going to be, you're going to talk about something. It's like, should have gotten a Coyote. But
it's gonna be like the V8 commercial. Could have had a V8. Oh wait, I have a V8. Could have had a Coyote. There you go. That's the exact, literally the exact logo / product I was waiting for to appear on my screen.
I have that left over from last week, but no. So the short version of the story is that the black Mustang, my current Mustang, we are going to be doing like I said, if we can pull it off. I think I know of only two others on the street that will be able to pull off what my car will be. It will literally be one of, at most, a handful of Mustangs capable of doing what it'll do. So I'm actually as if not more excited for this than I was for the supercharger or the centrifugal supercharger.
I will be 100% honest. I am in that same boat because even though it's not my car, like, look, everyone in there, grandma, has a supercharged American V8 these days, Hellcats and turbo / supercharged LSs everywhere. And the Coyotes, they take the supercharging like nothing else. And it was cool. Don't get me wrong. But the direction you want to go, I'm extremely excited.
So I've at least tickled Greg's excitement about this. So I don't know exactly the timeline, guys. Like I said, it's going to depend on how quickly I can sell parts. But It's gonna be pretty. I mean, literally custom parts, not parts you can pull off the shelf. So,
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
I mean, based on your previous guess, Steve, I don't think we really should be taking your word on LS swap the world. Durr. No, I'm kidding.
Well, good transition to our major topic this evening because we're talking about engines. And now, interestingly enough, plug-in hybrid Mustang for Chad. Well, the company we're about to talk about is very well known for their hybrids, and also very well known for their performance engines, which is what this is the topic du jour for this evening's podcast. So, we all know Toyota. If you don't, who even argue? Because Toyota is everywhere. They're one of the largest automakers in the entire world. They have really cool engines, like the 2JZ. And there was a headline. I know. Gasp. There is a headline out there right now on the drive that says Toyota aims to surpass the 2JZ with the next gen high performance engine. Toyota's shooting for the moon and with just 4 cylinders. Now, here's what this article says. Basically, this distills down what happened back in May. They had a ICE Technology Summit. Toyota has already voiced their support of ICE engines, which is echoed by Mazda and Subaru. Obviously, Toyota owns part of them and they're partners with them in some ways. Basically, in that ICE Technology Summit, they unveiled a suite of new 4-cylinder engines ranging from 1.5 liters to 2 liters. The 2-liter being the largest, obviously, and the one with the most potential. Mostly because we know that the 3-cylinder in the GR Corolla and GR Yaris over in Europe and the rest of the world is a really stout little engine. And there are pictures floating around the internet with the cylinder walls, and they're very thick.
With 3 C's.
Right, yeah. Thick. It's people are getting 500 plus horsepower out of these things without doing much to them. It's a pretty stout little engine. With a 4-cylinder, and knowing Toyota's, panache or penchant for over-engineering things or putting things in their car that are over-engineered, a la the 2JZ, which was, Yamaha helped develop in certain areas. Like, the 4-cylinder has a lot of potential here. And apparently, according to some reports, there is a 400 horsepower version of the 2-liter engine floating around as a prototype car in a Lexus IS, and a 600 horsepower version of that same 2-liter 4-cylinder in a Lexus RC prototype. So they are definitely testing things on this platform and these new platforms. The article pretty much concludes like they're going to, do this. But the biggest thing, and this is where the headline comes in, if you scroll down a little bit, Chad, there's a quote here from a Toyota engineer. Go back up. Slower. There. Go back up above the super picture. Yeah. Toyota has a globally popular engine called the 2JZ engine. The engineer told Karuma News, according to Lexus Enthusiast, I would like to aim for an engine that surpasses that. There is no name here. It's just an engineer that was talking to this news site, apparently, and said that, they want to surpass the 2JZ engine in what? It doesn't say. It just says surpass it. So in engineering prowess, in total horsepower, in over-engineering, in legendary status, none of that it's all speculation. This is apparently a quote from an engineer. That being said, it's very cool that Toyota has a high-performance engine coming out. It is a bummer that it is not a 6-cylinder or an 8-cylinder, because 6-cylinder 2JZ, that would be great. 2JZ 2.0, or taking the V8 that's in the Lexus, LC or other cars like the RCF and things like that, and putting it into A new sports car or an updated Supra would be very, very cool. That would be very awesome. But they're going four cylinder, whatever. It's still a performance engine. And I actually made a short form content, reel slash short slash whatever TikTok on this. And if you want, you can go watch that after the stream. It gives a little bit more details and some specifics. But my take was like, look, if they're developing this engine and they have all this horsepower to it, very cool. Also, Toyota's known for hybrids. If they could pair this engine, and it's as over-engineered as we know Toyota can make it, and they pair it with a hybrid system, that is a recipe for very, very fast things. And it could lead to a very cool hybrid sports car of some kind with a four-cylinder engine. I know Mercedes was sort of going that direction with their E-Class AMGs, their C-Class AMGs. The world decided to revolt, and they've gone back to V8s, which I think they should have stayed with in the first place, and made a different car with a four-cylinder hybrid system. That would have been great. But um, it's cool that they're doing this, but I don't think that they're going the right direction with it in the sense of four-cylinder versus like making another six or doing something with a V8 they already have. And with that, I turn it over to Chad for the rant of the week because I know this is the topic that he wants to rant on.
So number one, yay, internal combustion. Like they put all the right words to it. We're committed to internal combustion as the future of motoring. We understand our enthusiasm. Here's the thing. If this is a turbo four cylinder that fits in the line of engines and not a turbo four cylinder like, I don't know, Mercedes, it's like, well, depending on the turbo and depending on the hybridization, it can be a four cylinder or a six cylinder or an eight cylinder or even better. No, it's still a freaking four cylinder. Like the C63 AMG makes 600 and some odd combined hybrid internal combustion horsepower. It has a very clever turbocharger with an electric motor on it so that it can spin. So it can both be enormous and provide big boost, but also spin and be responsive, like, say, a supercharged car or a naturally aspirated car and everything. And nobody cared. And that's the worry. That's number one, my worry with this, right? It's like, look at our new shiny, it burns dead dinosaurs. That's what you all wanted. Get rid of the V8. They're not looking. Like, that's the worry. You know, because 2UR, one of the best V8s globally made. If an ISF or an RCF or a GCF or a blah 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 F or a Gregson F, if it's now just the four cylinder, nobody's, you know, if Lexus is, let's say, the last of the V8, like, people are interested in Lexus because they offer V8s and it's a high revving. It's a great little V8. Not little, but you get the idea. And they're like, well, Lexus has always been considered the Japanese Mercedes. They're making four cylinders. Now so are we.
I will say on that note, if this can be cool, but it has to be done the right way, and they're not going to, because if they're testing a 400 and a 600 horsepower version of a four-cylinder engine, it's not going to be cool in the sense of it needs to be high revving, high power, which, you know, a la the Honda S2000. Not that that was a high power car, but, you know, red line of, you know, 9K, four-cylinder pissed off K motor. That's a very good recipe. However, 400 horsepower out of a naturally aspirated four cylinder, not happening. Same thing with a 600 horsepower naturally aspirated four cylinder, not happening.
How with that
and of
attitude?
course, these are rumors. I don't know if I don't know if those are like true from Lexus enthusiasts. I don't know if that's like a real thing, but if it is, it's going to have forced induction. Period. If they make a 300 to 400 horsepower naturally aspirated four cylinder, that is a very different endeavor. That could be very cool and have huge swap potential down the line for other platforms. So I would rather see them do that than do a 400 to 600 horsepower forced induction four cylinder. That would be way cooler in my opinion,
But the whole
and
thing is
way more
the whole
interesting.
thing is it's like, ooh, horsepower, right? Like, but is it the engine making the horsepower? Because a Mercedes doesn't advertise the C63 AMG as making 420 carbon based horsepowers with
Right.
electronic assist adding another 200 or whatever, right? They just advertise it as making a lot of horsepower. And
Yeah.
again, my first worry is it's that they're falling into the trap of, hey, we can make a four cylinder that makes X amount of power, we can supplement it with hybridization, and now we have one engine that can fulfill the role of a bunch of different things. And to Steve's point about twin turbo V6 from the Tundra, no, go away. Just no, stop.
I think that I think that's a four cylinder. I don't think they have a six in the Tundra anymore.
No, it's the same engine. It's a turbocharged six that replaced the V8.
I'm thinking of the hybrid. I'm wrong. I was thinking hybrid. The hybrid's the four cylinder, not the turbo six.
You know, and that's that. Like I said, that is the big worry. It's like all of this. Like, here's a 400 horsepower turbocharged four cylinder for you guys, huh? Look at us now, right? Like, you guys like us or whatever, and it's really now just the only engine they offer. And you know, like that's a worry because frankly, it could make 500 horsepower without any hybridization, have the most technologically advanced turbocharging system we've seen so far, all of that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, it's still a four cylinder, and not a lot of them sound good. And not a lot of them have that straight six sound, that
wrong.
V8 instantaneous torque, like all that other sort of stuff.
I would still rather have a four cylinder than another crossover and or
look, if this means that
EV
if this means
or whatever.
that like performance sedans and stuff, but it's like, and here's what the thing, right? It's like we're keeping like let's say from the Lexus side of things. Look, we're keeping the IS around. We're keeping the RC around. We're keeping the F. We're keeping it with internal combustion. If it's because they're putting the four cylinder into it, that is signing those cars death sentences. Yeah. Because the people with the means to buy the cars like that don't want to go have a four banger. They don't.
No, they don't. Which is why Mercedes went back to the V8 because
right, but how many years until that V8 comes back?
Not long,
right?
They said like 2 years,
right?
It's not going to take long.
In those 2 years, right? You just watched somebody make a massive mistake. Don't fall into that trap. But that is just part one.
Right.
Part two of why I hate this article. I took notes.
I was like, what are you looking at?
No. Man, when you sent this to me and it's like, I've been thinking, because I saw this about a month ago. It was like, ooh, this looks like a reel. And then I couldn't really get my thoughts hinged enough to do it in a minute and a half. So.
Sounds like a good opportunity for long form content.
If only. The second part of this is now the second engine Toyota's developing, in my opinion, that we know that 3-cylinder, right, is a powerhouse. Completely developed by Toyota, put in a Corolla. Granted, the Corolla is a little on the pricey side for a Corolla, but it's not world-shatteringly expensive. And that expense is why they justified not developing their own engine for the new Supra, or really any of the major parts, if we're being brutally honest. And then they go and develop this. The 3-cylinder they had already kind of had in the works, but I still maintain, hey, duplicate the block. Straight 6, but whatever. I know it's not that simple. Don't yell at me, chat. But then it's like, okay, well, that engine was kind of around. They spent money developing that. Maybe they didn't want to spend more developing a Big Brother. I will begrudgingly give the benefit of the doubt. And now they're developing this new family of 4-cylinder engines. It's like, okay, sure. Is a 5-cylinder next? Is that how you're upping the cylinder count one at a time? Which I'm here for, by the way, Toyota, if you're listening.
Yes, please, yes, do that. Don't, no more sixes. Just do that. 5-cylinder, go.
The 1.75 JZ. And now I'm looking back and it's like, okay, now we're developing another new engine. And only reason, and then that brings me to this, is that I think the whole 2J thing is purely marketing. Purely. Because not for nothing, there's a bunch of 4-cylinders that are making more power than a 2J did out of the box. They just are. Right? Granted.
Yeah, what was the 2J out of the box? Like 335, something like
276
that?
in Japan,
320?
330 in United States trim.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, there's plenty of 4-cylinders that can make more than that now.
You know, so like that isn't really an impressive bar to anyone who knows anything about engines. But they're using the 2J name to be like, haha, we still remember it. We know you guys do. We didn't give you a successor to it in the Supra like we probably should have. But look, our new engine, it's going to be better than the 2J, which means we can throw it in everything and you're going to love it. Just imagine your 2J beating RAV4. Like, fuck you. And it's just like, you need to stop with this stuff because number one, 2J, 6-cylinder.
Yeah.
This new engine, missing 2 cylinders, the 4-cylinder. The engine they should have mentioned, but I wouldn't have had the same panache and marketing buzz, was the 3S GTE. Because this thing is rumored to be going in, this 4-cylinder I think is rumored to be going into the next generation MR2. Or the next generation Celica, right? Both of which got 3S GTE turbocharged 4-cylinders in their hottest trim. And 3S GTE, if you, from all accounts, can make 400-500 horsepower without opening them up. Don't know about you, but that sounds awfully familiar. About 2 liters getting this much power. The big boy, the 3-liter, could make this much. It was in the era of the same over-engineered stuff. And it's just like, anyone who knows anything, you're not fooling. Not even a little bit. Like, look, am I happy that they're focusing on making a high-output engine? Yes, because I think we need manufacturers to continue to do this. Because enthusiast cars are important, not just because of what we want. As Steve was, I think Toyota made a mistake making the 3-cylinder. Not even a little bit. I mean, the 3-cylinder sounds incredible. It's incredibly stout. Maybe some of the fittings around it with oiling or what have you could have been better, but 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder, I mean, at the end of the day, they sound similarly enough. And the 3-cylinder actually has a little bit of a more distinct noise because, frankly, we've heard exhausted 4-cylinders for forever now. You know, that's a great little engine. Just add a cylinder to it. I understand it's not that simple between casting, cooling, camshafts, crankshafts, the whole nine. I get it. I totally do. But that is a beefer of a little engine. Sean goes, what if Toyota just starts remanufacturing 3S GTEs with a new engine cover? I mean,
yes,
they could, but we live in a day and age where you can have an aluminum blocked engine with sleeves, if you're so inclined, hold more power than the old the cast iron blocks of yesteryear, and because that's the 2J's Achilles heel. Because if you want to go fast with corners, it's too heavy. You know how I know it's too heavy? Because Toyota, when they were trying to kill Godzilla, didn't do it with the 2JZ. They did it with a built version of the 3S GTE, and then later the 1UZ. But look, again, I am very. I am
Sorry, I will be back again.
okay.
Keep going. There's a loud cricket in here, and it's annoying me, and it's going to be very annoying on stream. Keep going. I will be back.
Yeah, Steve, I know the Corolla GRs have been catching on fire, but we're also not talking significant numbers, and it is a topic for another day. We'll go with. You know, it's just you know, it look, again, making a high output engine, I am all for it. As long as it doesn't replace the other good engine. Frankly, it could replace V6s because I could give less of a crap about those V6s. In truck trim, you might need to keep those just because there is a instant torque from displacement that you can't. You might be able to make more power with less displacement with a turbo, but trucks need it in different spots. Whatever. But like Toyota has a great engine on their hands in the 2UR. And that should continue to be their flagship engine in things like the IS, in things like the RCF, in like because it's such a good engine. And at the end of the day, the people buying those cars like a V8 sound, like having a V8. And let's face it, it carries more weight in the country club measuring contest than a 4-cylinder does. Take away all of the performance benefits of a V8. Take away all the performance take away sorry, I just noticed something. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, scatterbrain chat. I apologize. All right, sorry about that. OCD. Apologize. Again, Toyota has some really good engines currently manufacturing. This shouldn't be the. They just saw Mercedes tried it, failed. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, this in some as a top engine option in like a GR86. I mean, kind of renders the Supra. I don't want to say pointless, but that because you know that would make for a hell of a car. I still maintain that the perfect engine for that car is the 3-cylinder out of the GR Corolla, just because 300-ish horsepower is perfect for those cars out of the box. And if you want to tune on it, we've seen that engine can take all you want. You know, it's just like I just do not want to see this trend of, hey, we're developing a brand new high performance engine, and it just turns out that this high performance 4-cylinder is just there to fill the void of a, you know, they already tried to make turbocharged 4-cylinders replace V6s. They did to some extent. They tried to make turbocharged 6-cylinders replace V8s, and they have in some places. Now, I think with this growing hybridization trend of these small displacement engines making big power, especially when you combine it with things like electronic turbocharging and things like that, there's this, because again, these are businesses. And this business looks at and they go, okay, so we have this 4-cylinder that can do 4-cylinder things. We can strap a turbo on it and it can do V6 things. if we strap a turbo and a hybrid to it, now it can do V8 things, and we've made one engine. And from a manufacturing standpoint, from a cost standpoint, from a business standpoint, strictly looking at getting the most out of one item or the fewest items possible, that makes a lot of sense. Again, the problem I have with it is that nobody who pays 60, 70, 80, $100,000 for a luxury sedan, a luxury sports coupe, is going to want a 4-cylinder. It's just
nope. When you're spending that kind of money, agree. There's literally zero people that are spending that kind of money that want a 4-cylinder. It's wonderful that Toyota is making another suite of 4 cylinders to go into their internal combustion cars. Great, cool. Put them in the base Corolla or whatever Corolla is. Put them in Yaris's. Put them in Camrys. Blah blah blah. But like, don't say that it's going to be a performance engine that's going to be the next 2J. Like, that's not real.
right. And I mean,
If you were developing a 6-cylinder and had that same thing, that is interesting. I don't believe you if you're saying that about a 4-cylinder.
right. And I don't, like I said, it's not impressive to make a 4-cylinder today. As weird as this sounds, it's not as impressive to make a 4-cylinder do 2J things as a 2J.
Correct.
As weird as that sounds.
Yeah, there's plenty of friggin' flat 4 Subarus out there that are making 600, 700, 800 horsepower.
I mean,
big old turbos on them. Like,
for a time.
you can do that. It's very easy.
Right.
I mean, yeah, for a time. Exactly.
You know, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Greg, continue your thought process.
So this is fine, but the fact that this engineer said, I want to aim for an engine that surpasses that, like, cool, and that's a great soundbite. But like, how? The how to me is like,
well, it's
how do you want it to
again
surpass? Are you going to be
versatility?
Is it going to be?
I guarantee you, it's going to be like a
Right.
versatility or a look. The 2J
knowing
made
Toyota
200.
and
The
Lexus, sure.
2J and its spiciest trim from factory, and the blah 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 special edition, by Blurdy Son.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this 4-cylinder makes 50 more horsepower than it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
People don't like the 2J for what it did stock. Stock, it was heavy. It wasn't it was not a great competitor for, say, an RB. What the 2J
Correct.
did, that was what made the 2J a legend was the ability to throw a metric and imperial crap ton of boost at it, and it held. It didn't matter what Toyota said it could do. It just didn't. It was just
Right. And not for nothing, like the 2JZ wasn't when it came out, it wasn't like this world-beating thing that it became.
No, because everybody
it was
because Toyota. Here's the thing: Toyota had been making, really, 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 really good straight 6 engines for a while at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, sorry.
Yeah, it's no, you're fine.
It just screams marketing to me.
Yeah,
and it
correct.
It doesn't. It sours what should be a happy moment for us as gearheads, right? We should be happy that we have a new performance line of engines coming out that are making pretty ridiculous horsepower for let me put it to you this way. I would guarantee you, given the overall size of the RC platform, I'd be willing to wager one of Greg's kidneys on the fact that 600
Ooh,
number
no.
is with hybridization. It's not all motor. Or I shouldn't say that.
Oh,
It's not all turbochargers and 4-cylinder engine.
yeah, I bet the 6 cylinder or the 600 one for sure. I bet you the 400 is a turbo four. But the 600, yeah, I bet that's a hybrid for sure. That I would agree with you there. I don't think that I don't think Toyota from factory is going to put out a 4-cylinder engine with a turbo or twin turb skis on it and be like, "Oh yeah, 600 horsepower." Like, that's a hard sell for me.
It's a no sell for me. I I don't want Ford tomorrow come out and say, we have developed a Mustang. It makes 680 horsepower. It is the most technologically advanced Mustang that has ever existed. It has a 2.3 liter EcoBoost engine with hybrid assist. Fuck you. No. I don't want it. I
Yeah.
don't want it. And there's just no. But I'm going to touch on something Sean said, and then Greg is going to regale you guys with tales from the. So Sean says, I don't think
Tales
the two
from the unknown.
tales from the moose anus. Volvos.
Wait, what?
I don't know. I didn't get much sleep. Sean goes, I don't think the 2J deserves the pedestal that is on as much as, say, the 1UZ V8 that was out at the same time, had way more interesting engineering and arguably longevity. Look, the 2J got put up on a pedestal because it people figured out that you could make 700 horsepower on these things and you didn't have to open up the bottom of the engine. The blocks themselves can handle over 1,000. You know, you could on stock internals make 1,000 horsepower. It's not going to be for very long, but it's not going to be an instantaneous explosion. And you couple that with the fact that it happened in a time when JDM importing was becoming more and more a thing. And you could get these engines for really, really good money. So you had an LS. We all know LS is the junkyard LS. Well, the 2J was almost a junkyard Japanese straight six until people figured out, and then the price went from like a grand or two to now $5,000 to $6,000 for a good one. I mean, over 10 if you're getting a U.S. domestic market 2J. Because I could go down a rabbit hole on what the difference is between the JDM and the USDM JZ engines are.
No, not now. We don't have 3 more hours.
It's actually not as much as you think, but that was the legend of the 2J. Now things like the UZ family of engines, not so much the 3UZ, although I still maintain if you're looking for 360 horsepower and throwing it in a Miata, that's the engine you should go with because they're dirt cheap because, again, the tuners don't want them. Some do because they're just going to sleeve it anyway. But the UZ family of engines outlived the 2J by a massive margin. Last year was the last year of the GX 460 or whatever the Lexus SUV is. And that had a 2UZ in it. All the way up until now. Sean, no, it doesn't. I could tell you that. I'm sorry, that sounded way harsher than I meant it to be. You will need to do internals to push that level of power. You will need to do head work to get that levels of power, because the 1UZ, for all its goodness, does not have the best flowing head because of the technology it utilized to be dual overhead cam with one cam gear. We've talked about it before. But you're probably, and just on cubic volume and compression and stuff, engine nerdery, it's not going to get there. Now, you could throw 8-9 pounds of boost at it, make probably close to somewhere between 500 and 600 horsepower, and be okay. But those things are a strong block. You need to play I forget what the weak point in the rotating assembly is. It's not the entirety of it. It might be rods and pistons. It might be pistons. I can't remember. I've researched so many engines, and frankly, the Mustang builds on my head, so that's kind of where I'm looking at the limits of engines at the moment, and it pushed out some stuff. Now you put pistons, rods in it, a good set of cams, a good port job, slightly over, probably like a 1 mil oversized valves in them. You're gonna be pushing 1,000 pretty easily, depending on the way you want it to go, because the blocks are relatively strong for what they are. The 2UZ, the truck engine, the 4.6 or 4.7, those arguably are rods, pistons, cranks away from easy 1,000 plus horsepower because of the cast iron block. But Sean goes, I worked with an Aussie guy on my buddy's 1UZ build years ago. The pre-93 engines had thicker rods, 6-piston, 706 on a tune. Cams from New Zealand, but otherwise no changes. Not looking for an argument, but 6 PSI and 4 liters does not equal 700 horsepower unless you're running obscene compression. Not to tell you your buddy's a liar or disputing the source or anything like that, but I've watched enough videos on the 1UZ because it was an engine I originally thought I was going to put in the IS and everything like that. I've read the sort of 1UZ Bible. I've watched, people like Turbo Yoda from Mighty Car Mods. I'm not saying he's the only source, but he also built one they put it in a Falcon of all things. Well, an old school Falcon or Fairlane? Was it a Fairlane? I think it was a Falcon for them, a Fairlane for us, but it was from the 60s. Anyway, wildly off topic. And I forget what they were pushing, but they built the motor. There's a whole mess of stuff. Like, yes, I think your pre-VVTi motors had slightly thicker components and things of that nature. But again, I'll put it to you this way. On 10 pounds of boost, with way more advanced cams, with variable valve timing, with a more, modern ECU tuning and all of that other stuff, my Mustang on 10 pounds of boost made 705. There is a volumetric efficiency thing going on here. I'm not saying there might be missing. Yeah, he was Sean goes, the intercooler setup was odd. It was under the upper intake manifold. Well, he was probably running a water to air intercooler, similar to what you see in positive displacement superchargers, where the intercooler lives between the supercharger and the intake track. You see that a lot, especially if packaging is a concern. Again, one of the details in that isn't adding up. And again, I'm not trying to shit on the story. Like, I feel bad or what have you. I also don't want to spread misinformation. But there's a reason why, if you're going NA for NA, an LS will make more power than a Coyote. It just has more volume. Now, when you add boost to the equation, obviously the heads is what the secret sauce in Coyotes are. Which actually, I forget who did the test, but even the stock, I think it was Gen 3 heads, flowed better than like the holy grail of factory cylinder heads, the Honda K series of motors. So that's the secret sauce there. So again, that's what I'm saying. Like he could have been making that on 16 pounds of boost. Um, they could have been on it. I'll go you one further. When we went to Spoo Sky and we dynoed the Mustang, originally it was reading 465 wheel horsepower. I could have print. I'm not saying this is what your buddy did, but I could have just sat here and said, "Well, that's what the dyno said." You know, take 12% and Gen 3 Coyotes make over 500 at the crank, right? And maybe that it was a hot dyno or something. Again, that is an epic build. You can throw boost at these things and they respond really, really well. Um, like I said, it's just that is something where I would like to see what else was going on before I would. That's a dyno sheet I would look at and be very, what's going on here? Like, are they running nitrous? Are they on? I mean, 6 pounds is really low for an exotic fuel, but again, it's volumetric, right? If you have 4 liters and you're having 6 psi of overpressure, right? That means the amount of air in the cylinder means equal, and with a 14-to-1 or 13-to-1 fuel ratio, your bang's going to be X. Yes, you can get around it by having a watt of. There's this old thing where like a built boosted, like say K24 Honda engine, or say K20, I think was the example that was used. The K20 and what's the Evo engine, the good one?
The four something.
Yeah, 4G63.
4G63. Yeah, that's it.
If both cars were making 700 horsepower, the Honda was doing it on like 10 psi less of boost because of the head design. And because I know the Achilles heel for making horsepower with the UZ family of engines is the cylinder head. Oh. Be right back, Greg.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead. So while Chad has a coughing attack, I'm trying to stay sane in here because there is a cricket in my garage. I cannot find it, and it is driving me up an absolute wall. So I hope you guys cannot hear that because it's very obnoxious. Either way, glad we have new engines coming out from Toyota. Ooh, excuse me. But I'm also bummed that it's not a new 6 or an 8. However, there is alternate news that they are using the 8-cylinder that's in the LC slash whatever, and they're putting that V8 into a Supra body and going racing in Aussie supercars. So that's cool. I think.
Those are a motor chassis, just so you know. It's kind of like NASCAR.
Yeah, no, I know. It's not like throwing it into an actual Supra. But it's cool that they're doing it at all. Like, I mean, I know Volvo did it with the S60 for a while with the Yamaha 4.4.
You say the cricket. Cool. You say the cricket. You have a cricket.
Yeah, can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it through your microphone.
Oh my god, it's pissing me off to no end, and this is all I can do just to sit here and not be like, Serenity now. Like I'm freaking out.
All right. But I will also be right back. Don't make me have
when you come back, I'm gonna find this cricket and murder it. But you go ahead. Yeah. Steve's laughing at the cricket. The cricket's laughing at me because I've been trying to find it for a while, and I'm just like, it's not happening. So. But either way, I would love. I'm still holding out hope that the V8 that Lexus and Toyota share, obviously, is going to go into something that is, again, excuse me, very tired. That is relatively affordable, and can can be bought by normal humans because the LC they're coming down in price, which is cool. You still can't really find them for under 50 grand. And as cool as they are, as beautiful as they are, 50 grand for that, there's a lot of car you can buy for 50 grand these days. Even with all the price inflations. Like, you can get lots of V8s. 50 grand is actually knocking on the territory of some Audi R8s, which is wild to think about. Not saying that you should do that because it'd probably be kind of a shit kicker of an R8. Whatever. It is one of those things where there's still a lot you can do. You can buy a $25,000 car and sink 25 grand into it. So it's a lot. It's a lot. Um, but I really want to see that V8 in more things. I know that they have a V8 in the IS 500 F Sport. So with that said, I mean you can surmise that they are going to continue to use it over other platforms in the future. I hope, but I really want to see an affordable V8 sports car, a relatively affordable V8 sports car from Toyota slash Lexus, mostly Toyota. Like I really want to see another V8 Toyota. That would be very cool. I don't know if that's in their ethos these days, but it's something that's I'm still holding out hope for. Like I really think that there's a world that we can live in where there's EVs and hybrids and ICEs, and they're all sort of living in harmony. I don't think that we need to go all EV. I don't think that that is necessarily the answer for everything. I don't think we need to, you know, continue down the path of only ICE either. Like, there's definitely a place for all sorts of different type of propulsion, and if we can, it's Steve, it is open. You can kind of say like, I've opened, I've opened the door. I think it's right here. Oop, there. I think it's between the doors. That's where my guess is. So I'm gonna try to figure it out once Chad gets back. But I see a world where we can kind of just have what we want because everything is so hyper niched or niched these days. Niche, Nietzsche. Everything's so hyper niche these days. You can kind of have the phone you want, you can have the coffee you want, you can have the car you want, you can have the house you want, you can have the this, that, and the other thing. You can have the computer you want, you can have the fan blade you want. Like everything is customized these days. It is. I don't see a world where we all just go EV or stick with ICE. Like I don't think that's a reality, unless we can figure out a way that internal combustion burns clean with what we already have and with things in the future, i.e., a potential synthetic fuel, a hydrogen, whatever. That's the only way I sort of see this working out in a sense of one propulsion system for cars, if you will. So we'll see. I mean, I think that like all these different things have their merits, right? EV is really cool in the sense like it has instant torque, and that's a hell of a drug if you can get instant torque and 1.99 seconds out of a huge 6,000 pound sedan. Like that's cool, quite honestly, really is. Um, it is. See you, Sean. Thanks for joining, man. We'll catch you next time. Um, there is there is a place for big V8s that make loud noises and can make huge power with superchargers and whatnot. Um, Gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm really tired. But there's also a place for quiet four cylinders that propel cars to 40 mpgs. There's also, a place for, big V12 engines. There's also a place for hybrids. I don't see one thing really working out, at least in the next 50 plus years. I don't think that's gonna work. Yeah, Anthony, what's up, Anthony? Don't be so reasonable and level, Greg. That's me. I'm a reasonable and level guy. So like, but I don't think that that's happening. Do I want that to happen? Is a very different thing. I want internal combustion forever because noises and reasons. But we've talked about this many times. The thing the thing that I see as the next sort of um, horizon for cars, specifically performance cars, is how to get the most out of a car overall. Um, what's in that 400 to 500 horsepower range that gives the best driving experience possible without like to me the horsepower wars are over. You can have a 2000 horsepower EV. You can have a 4000 horsepower built Coyote motor. Like the horsepower wars are done. Like quite honestly. Not
With a
to say
billet
that they're
block.
not cool. Right, but not to say they're not cool. But you can have horsepower however the fuck you want now. There's no wars anymore. It's just you want horsepower, you got some money, here you go. How do you want it? There is no This isn't the 80s where you're just like there's like a few things you can buy to get a shit ton of horsepower. You can get a shit ton of horsepower out of basically whatever you want these days. I truly believe that the next big thing is like, what is the platform and the engine and the transmission combo that's going to give you the most bang for buck and the most balanced car imaginable? That is, I know that it probably exists in some way now, but I feel like the market is going to hone in on that and be like, enthusiasts, come check out this 350 horsepower Subaru BRZ with a manual and a turbo that you've always wanted. And everyone's like, ooh, they actually put a good engine in that now. And like, to me, like, that's a much more interesting thing because you can actually drive that on the road and have fun with that than a 2000 horsepower Rimac Navara. Because that's cool, but I can't do anything with that. Nor do I have $3 million to pay for it. But this 300, 400 horsepower Subaru BRZ from factory with the proper engine that it should have always had in the first place, with a manual transmission, ooh, now we're talking. Like, I think that's like the next thing, quite honestly. And with that said, Chad's back. Please turn my camera off because I'm going to go murder this cricket and figure out where the hell it is so my sanity can return.
Unacceptable. Power through. Poor Anthony bricked his electric vehicle, so you. Also,
Yeah,
there's
but he fixed it.
there's something at the tippity top of your camera, leaning over.
Oh yeah. So it's a big piece of cardboard. Because if I do this, you can kind of see there's like a big like shine on the camera. And if I do this, look, it's gone. So much nicer.
Submit it to Shitty Rigs. Alrighty, so we are going to mute Greg for you guys, so we don't have to listen to that damn cricket. To what? That's weird. There we go. To echo what Greg was saying, like, yeah, the quote unquote horsepower wars. Look, we now know that you need a specialized vehicle or a very high horsepower vehicle to compete with an EV if you're doing like drag racing or you're going for those numbers 0 to 60 quarter mile times, etc. So yeah, I mean, here's the thing. One of the most sought after supercars you can buy right now is a GT3 RS from Porsche. It only makes 550 horsepower. I forget what the hottest one makes. It makes a little over 500. But point of it is that that's not a metric ton of power with in today's day and age. But it delivers power in a way. You can get one with a manual transmission. It sounds undeniably epic. And it's on a really good chassis. I think you can make a poor man's version of that. Poor man's. in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, and you'd have something really fun. It's just the marketing side of it, right? Like, what are you driving? Like, there's a reason why, well, Corvette's a little different because they went off the rails horsepower wise, but you know, Camaros, Mustangs, you know, not the top level, you know, whether it be the supercharged versions or whatever. There's a reason these cars are still wildly popular. It's because they scratch the itch without being unobtainably expensive. And I think there's a place in the world for that. And I wish more companies would think about that in a sense of the total package and what we actually want as enthusiasts. You know, we don't want the, you know, we can't afford the mega powerful, right? But we want that sense of it. We want something that sounds good, makes good power, has modding potential. You know, because we're all aspirational, right? Like, there's a reason we modify our cars, right? If we had, you know, in some cases you just love the platform. I know a lot of you love Volvos and you work on those to be out of the love for the vehicle itself. And you know, I love the Mustang platform. I love the Coyote engine. I love that side of the thing. And you know, it's really Anthony goes, I want everything in my driveway to pass the $100 bill challenge. I mean, I'll give you $100 for stuff in your driveway. I don't know if that's a challenge, but in any rate, sorry, I'm literally watching I'm literally watching Greg struggle with this cricket. It's humorous. Where was I? You know, what these manufacturers need to understand is that the reason BRZ and GR86s are popular is because they're affordable. Now, they would be more popular if they had a horsepower figure that started with a 3. And Anthony, no, I'm not. I may be, but it's not coming to me. It's been a long day, and my brain is complete goo. But it would still be wildly entertaining to drive. Just imagine driving that vehicle with, you know, just imagine driving a vehicle with that kind of power, that kind of handling, and how much fun it would be. The trick would be to figure out how you could market it. The trick would be to figure out, okay, what is this car's competition? What are we saying it's going up against? Because like things like the STI, things like the Evo, that sort of stuff sold, and it didn't make a metric ass ton of power. It had pedigree it could look back on. Well, here's a dirty little secret. If you want to go GT racing, you don't need a ton of power. You know, you can get away. Porsche has been getting away with 500 horsepower NA for decades now. You know, so like, you don't need to have some sort of legacy brand. But even so, like, if the Supra had come back as just a hypothetical here, if they had taken, say, a GR86 and modified it in such a way to where it could fit, say, and we're shooting for the stars here, a 2UR V8. You think he just now realized? I was just gonna walk away and just let you walk around, have the live stream just be that. Cricket 1, man 0. Um, but you know, um, that's the thing is figuring out how you could get a car, how you could have a pedigree, and have it have buzz. That's the whole reason you saw like the revival of the new Z, the new Supra, the new Ba. Like these names have panache, they have buzz, they have the ability to. Oh shoot! I gotta get rid of that. Um. Uh. It has to be in a way that'll sell. And again, I understand, but like I said before we went live into Greg's cricket hunt cam, imagine if Toyota, when it came time for the new Supra, they rebodied a GR86 and then gave it an interesting engine. I would say 2UR manual box with obviously an automatic option because people like Greg exist. Um, hey, why don't you go get in your manual car right now? Yeah, built. Um, you know, and now you have 460 horsepower, a high revving V8, a fun platform. You can make the interior as luxurious as you need it to be, so it doesn't feel cheap on the inside. That to me would have been a way better Super. Not to say the Super we got is a very, 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 very good car. There's no denying that. But I'm just saying. I think the edibles kicked in with Steve.
Sounds about right. Sorry, mine will kick in later.
Anyway, Anthony goes, it's an old school way to show off a fast car. Plop someone in the back in the bitch seat, slap a Benji to the dash, and tell them to reach for it when you drop the hammer and get it before you left off. A good fast car won't let them.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, we'll try that. We'll have to find an actual fast car for. No, I'm kidding. But no, but like I said, like Greg, well, not like I said, like Greg said, horsepower now is people have become so desensitized to big horsepower.
Yes.
It used to be 500 horsepower was wow, 600 was whoa, 1,000 was oh, you guys are insane.
Biblical.
And now we have cars rolling off the production line making 1,000 horsepower. 700 horsepower is kind of that sort of supercar target now.
Mm-hmm.
So
if your supercar doesn't have 700 horsepower, is it even a supercar these days?
And I think that's, to be brutally honest, I think that's the death of the supercar. Not that they'll ever go away or they won't, but like
they've evolved. It's different.
They've evolved, but it's like now.
What in your opinion is arguably the first supercar?
The first supercar, it's probably the Miura.
That's what I was gonna say too. That is arguably the first supercar. What was the power on the Miura?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. But for its time, it was wild. And everything evolves. It is very different now than it was in the 70s.
Right.
In the 60s.
And right, I get it, and there's you need to outdo and everything, but it's just got to such a number one, both of the new Lambos, the Revolto and the whatever the hell replaces the Huracan. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, Temerario.
Yeah, that.
Whatever that is.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, who knows at this point? Because I think both of those are not good looking. Or I'm sorry, neither of those cars is good looking. They're both meh, bordering on kind of ugly in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Ferrari, we've talked ad nauseum here, has lost their way.
Oh yeah.
You know, and their engineering master strokes as far as being a
Yeah.
thing is.
Giggity.
But they've lost a lot of them are honestly Porsche not really changing anything, even though they change a lot, but visually kind of staying true to the Porsche shape and the Porsche.
Yeah.
Like by doing, again, it's not nothing, but by doing nothing, they've become kind of the. I like them better because, like I said, Lambo, I would take prior to the new stuff. I would take Lambo over Ferrari. Now it's like I like the Porsche stuff better.
Mm-hmm.
McLaren, even to an extent, I think their stuff because of I don't know why, but because they're just as there's just as much engineering nerdery going on with the McLarens. I like them better. You know, I like. I would rather a AMG GT R over just about any of these things.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You know, look, it's
Yeah.
cool that we've got.
It's it.
Let me put it to you this way, right? Like, we have gotten to such a place to where horsepower is pretty insane that I really just efficiency goes in both directions, right? If you have a highly efficient engine, you can make a lot of horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
If you, with the air and the fuel and stuff. If you design an engine as efficiently, but don't have it screaming its nuts off, it's efficient when it comes to fuel efficiency, right? The same basic tricks go, what's a good way to get a bigger bang for your buck or make use of the same bang but get more power out of it? Compression ratios.
Right.
But if you make the bang bigger, more power. I don't know. There's a lot of that stuff going around. Steve echoes it, goes, if I had a choice between a Lambo or Ferrari, I'm buying a Porsche. If it's not screaming its nuts off, I don't want it.
Damn straight, Keith.
While I agree with that sentiment to an extent, it's really hard to hear that coming from a Volkswagenist. I'm kidding. Keith's a big Audi VW guy, in case you weren't picking up what I was putting down there. But, yeah, it's, I don't know. It's a weird time because, like, there's a blatant need for a fun car that isn't making earth-shattering horsepower that can be affordable. It's just I don't think anyone's found a way to properly market that yet. Because if you just come out with your new car and you just look at the statistics, it's like, oh, that's not really all that impressive. And it gets lost in the shuffle, right? So that's the thing.
I think there are 2 points I want to make on this.
Point one and point two. Back to the studio.
Yes. So the first point is on Steve's point of they were building big block V8s pushing 150 horsepower in the 1970s. We are just as far away from the next 70s as we are from the past 70s. 1974 was 50 years ago. 2074 is 50 years from now. Think about how far we've come from 1974 to right now in the car realm. What are we going to be seeing in the next 50 years from 2074? It's going to be wildly different because while we still have the basic car, it is drastically different than it was in 1974. Either shape, technology, what have you, right? The second part of that is a point that I've totally forgotten, and I've lost my train of thought on that first point. But I think that we do have fun, affordable cars right now. And there's no market for it really. Like the Miata still exists, the BRZ and GT86 still exists. Those are fun, affordable cars. You know, power argument aside, we've driven those cars, and they are definitely fun. They aren't as fun as they could be, but they are definitely fun, affordable sports cars. Sure. The problem is, I now remember my point now that I've gotten into it. We have to have a seismic cultural shift as far as mentality with cars to make that even happen. Because 99% of people that drive see them as appliances. And 95 to 99% of people see them as a means to get to work and not enjoy. And I think that's the problem. The problem is people don't enjoy cars. They enjoy them when they buy them. They're like, oh, this is a fun new car. Look at all this cool technology I got. Or, oh man, this is great. You know, I can fit the whole family in this minivan or SUV that I got. Oh, I've got this crossover. I have such a good high seating position now. All of it's just, you know, fairy dust. There's no substance to it. And that's a problem. Like, the problem is not many people truly enjoy cars like we do. You know,
Right.
I can find merit and fun things about almost any car, but people just look at them as appliances and just a thing to get from here to there, and that's so far from what they are, you know, in a personal sense to a lot of people. And unless we have that mentality shift through most of just general population, it's not going to be marketed appropriately. It's not going to be a thing that becomes part of normal culture. There's just going to be car culture and then commuters. Until commuters really have that mentality shift, I don't see it happening. And that sucks. But I'm also a realist in that sense. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. The best thing we can do is try to impart our wisdom on the next generation and make them really enjoy cars for what they are, as opposed to what they are perceived to be by the general public, which is just a means to get to work or go to the grocery store. Like, you can have fun on the way to the grocery store in your car. Most people don't.
Well, that goes back to what I'm trying to say. Is that the people like us have this mentality. Well, not even like us, right? Like, number one, where's your two-door sports car, Greg?
Right. Well, it's sitting right behind me, but it's a two-door sports car wrapped in a body of a wagon.
That's part of it.
Right.
The other part of it is that there's a lot of these people who could theoretically buy, say, a $47,000 to $55,000 400-ish horsepower sports car, who just don't, for whatever reason, especially like when it's like new. It's hard to get, like, again, a lot of our enthusiast brethren don't think with their heads. They're thinking with their, you know, oh, like this car right here, it's perfect for you. It's the old Miata syndrome, right? Miata's perfect for what you're talking about. It's a girl's car. It's blah, right? You know, or, oh, that doesn't, for that, it doesn't make that, I could just go and buy blah, blah, blah on like a used car or whatever. Yeah. It's, for me, what it's going to take is someone with a mother chassis, right? Similar to what Toyota's been doing with either Toyota's been doing with either BMW or Subaru, in that they have a chassis that both brands use. And that chassis gets breathed on by a name with panache, with clout. Like, I'm not
like
saying
Shelby.
Like a Shelby, but like almost like if Toyota goes to Porsche and says, "Hey, y'all are still consultants in addition to being a manufacturer. Let's come up with something, and now we have the GR86 that was breathed on by Porsche. You know, whether it be taking another engine from the parts bin or whatever.
Yeah.
It's breathed on by Porsche. Now it's the... Wait, is that the Toyota that was touched by Porsche? Go on.
Right.
Like that sort of stuff.
Yeah. That's like with the old Audi, I'm going to say it's the
RS2.
RS2? Yeah, it was like a 2.2 liter that Porsche did some stuff to. And it's like, oh, it's an Audi. Oh, yeah, but it's been breathed on by Porsche. Come check it out.
Well, there was
and
a time in Porsche's
that's
assembly
cool.
line where there were Audis, Porsches, and Mercedes-Benz all being built by Porsche.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. But no, I see your point. I agree with that. Like, you know, the Toyota Supra by Lamborghini. Like, but it's that
Yeah.
it's that partnership where it's not necessarily like a Supra badge on a BMW Z4. It's a Supra that's been helped out in a way by someone.
Right. And I think it was like the McLaren Grand Prix, and yes, like it has the name, but it's not okay. I can have this house, or I can have this car. Right? Like that.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. So.
But yes, but that's part of it. That's part of it is everything's so expensive now, and all the really good cars that people perceive to be really good are so far out of reach now that it's even less than a dream. It's a pipe dream because it's not even something that you can almost aspire to unless you're in a totally different echelon of money. So yeah, it's very different than it was a while ago.
You know, and like I said, like there is a thirst for it, right? But I think and this is kind of what I'll end it, is there's also a hurdle. If you want something and we'll deal with new cars, just to try to keep it simple. Once you start getting, it's like, yeah, but you can get a Gen 2 Coyote S550 Mustang for $30,000, like blah, blah, blah. Like that is part of it. But if you're going in and you're looking for that two-door sports car that isn't quite a supercar, isn't breathed on by the perceived elite, you're probably going into a Ford dealership and grabbing a Mustang or something like that. So like you have to figure out, like, if let's just say hypothetically speaking, Volkswagen decided to make a two-door coupe and they were like, we're going to price it. We're going to have performance figures all very similar to the Mustang. Well, they got to market hard against the Mustang, which I personally welcome. Like these car manufacturers start going like, hey, Volkswagen now has a car that can outdo a Mustang in every conceivable way for $5,000 less. Or
bring it on.
And we start trying to move the market that way and start really getting back to the notion that let's try to foster enthusiasm with enthusiasts who can actually afford the enthusiast cars we're making. There's no simple answer, and let's face it, if we had the answers, we'd probably be working for one of these companies.
Yeah, I'm still looking for that job. Volvo Corporate's pretty close. Gotta be like, hey guys, bring back the Yamaha V8s.
No, I love the Chinese
mind blown. Said no Chad ever.
Sorry, I gotta stop multitasking. But yeah, and
I think it's a good place to wrap.
Yeah, because my brain is not braining.
Your brain isn't braining.
At any rate, thank you to everyone who watched. Appreciate y'all. It's been a good one. I've been awake for way too long today. If you like, share it, all the fun contractually obligated stuff I'm supposed to say by the social media companies, or unless the social media gods will smite me. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, Christian, man.
Came out at the end. It's all right.
Appreciate you tuning
We love
in,
you.
though.
We miss you.
Appreciate you, brother. But appreciate everyone.